We're back with another episode of Mac Stories Unwind. This week's episode is brought to you by Collide. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is Federico Vitici. Happy Friday, Federico.
Hello, John. Happy Friday to you as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We've got some TV shows for folks today. We've both been watching a little TV, I guess. I'm kind of surprised that with my move and all that, but I've actually got an opportunity a couple of days ago to sit down, relax a little on the couch, and watch some TV again, finally. But why don't you kick it off? Because I know you've been busy too, but you've been watching something.
Yeah, actually, your pick was going to be my pick. But then when I opened the document, I saw that it was already in. I also fully caught up on the latest season of For All Mankind, but we'll do something different for that, I think, in a couple of weeks, maybe. So stay tuned for that. My pick this week is the first episode, and I guess a general recommendation for season 2 of Only Murders in the Building. So, this just started, I think, a couple of days ago. If you are in the US, you can find it streaming on Hulu. Here in Italy, it's already on Disney Plus with weekly episodes. There are 2 episodes out. I watched the first one last night, but I know I'm going to watch the whole season anyway. So, as a quick recap, Only Murders in the Building is the story of these 3 characters played by Steve Martin Short, and Selena Gomez. They live in this building in New York City called the Arconia, and in season 1, they end up solving the mystery of the murder of this tenant of the building called Tim Kono. And to do this, they end up creating a true crime podcast of their own called Only Murders in the Building, where through various shenanigans, basically, and a lot of a very interesting creative process, they solve the murder before the police. And the podcast becomes a hit, and it's a very fun show, despite the theme of true crime. It's a very fun show. I love the cast, and I guess spoilers. If you haven't seen the ending of season 1, maybe skip my section of Unwind and jump directly to John's. There's gonna be spoilers for the ending of season 1 of Only Murders in the Building. It ends with another murder in the Arconia. It ends with the 3 characters, Charles, Oliver, and Mabel. And specifically Mabel, she gets framed for the murder of the building manager, Bunny. The Charles and Oliver, as they are celebrating the solving the mystery of Tim Kono's death in the very final episode of season 1, they get a text message on their phones from Mabel saying, "Come to my apartment right away," and they find her standing over Bunny's body in her apartment with blood on her sweatshirt and Bunny stabbed with a knitting needle. And all signs are pointing to Mabel as the prime suspect of this new murder in the same building. Obviously, the victim was in her apartment. She had blood on her sweatshirt, and the knitting needle thing was a recurring dream of hers that she mentioned multiple times on the podcast. So they get taken into custody from the police, obviously, for questioning, but there's not enough evidence to pointing to, actually convicting them right away. So they get released. And this is all happening in the very first few minutes of episode 1. Where it's different from the beginning of season 1, the beginning of season 2 takes things, and I was talking about this with Sylvia, it takes things a bit more slowly, in that while episode 1 of season 1, it gets in the action right away. It gets in the true crime mindset right away, solving the mystery of this murder. Season 2 is more about these characters kind of wanting to get out of this podcasting scene. They want to clear their names.
Who doesn't want to get out of the podcasting scene, right?
They don't want to. Basically, the idea is that they're like, one of them, Oliver, it's like, we should do a season 2 immediately, but they're like, no, I want to make sure that I can clear my name of this, new accusation. I haven't done anything wrong. I'm not sure I'm up for doing another investigation right away. And there's a lot of sort of in jokes like, oh, and we all know that season 2 of true crime podcasts, they never do as well as season 1. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and also they have their own reasons for doing this. Mabel, she wants to try and become like a legit artist, and she gets contacted by an art gallery. The curator of the art gallery is played by Cara Delevingne in season 2, and so she's like, yeah, I want to try my hand at being an artist. Like, I don't want to do another season of the podcast. I want to clear my name, make sure the police knows that it wasn't me who stabbed this person to death. I don't want to do the show. And Charles is contacted by CBS to reprise to sort of do a reboot of the cop show that he became popular for in the 70s called Brazos. CBS wants to do a reboot of Brazos, but instead of playing the main character is now played by a black woman, is asked to play Uncle Brazos, sort of like a callback figure for this reboot of the original show. And so Charles is like, yeah, I was asked by CBS if I want to do this reboot. I don't wanna do the podcast again. But eventually, in the first episode, through various things that happen, clues that they find in the building, things that Mabel starts remembering, that Bonnie spoke before passing, the curiosity gets the best of them eventually. And so they break into Bonnie's apartment, which is a crime scene also. But they break into the apartment, they find a secret door leading to a secret room, and basically they realize, oh, well, I guess we're screwed now. We got to do the podcast again. We got to get to the bottom of this. And episode 1 ends with a cliffhanger immediately, like, oh, what? And so, yeah, that's basically where I'm at. I'm already hooked. I want to know, what's the deal with this new murder in the Arconia. And I love the characters. Even though it's a different start from the pace of season 1, I understand why they did it. They wanted to have sort of that character building going on. We're showing a different side to these characters, so that they're not just one-dimensional characters, or yeah, I guess we'll do season 2 now. No, they wanted to sort of do the more oh, I am having doubts because there's more to me as a character than just being, someone who lives in the Arconia and someone who does a podcast. So they want to build up the characters a bit more. They want to give them a backstory, which I understand. But there's also that familiar sort of true crime, murder solving action going on, which is why I am going to watch all the episodes of season 2. They're coming out weekly. Episode 2 is already out, and I don't know how many. Will there be? Maybe 10 like season 1? But yeah, if you are in America, it's on Hulu. If you are in Europe, it's on Disney Plus. I'm going to watch all of this and see how it ends.
Oh, that sounds great. That sounds really great. I think it makes a lot of sense to take the pace and the approach to a season 2 differently like that, because I'll tell you, I've watched a lot of shows recently where that kind of approach was taken in a season 1, and it's rough with a season 1 because it can be really hard to get into. It's a little and it can be a little slow, right? And I kind of appreciate a show that jumps into the action if it's a new show to me, because I get a better sense for whether it's going to stick long term.
Yeah.
This episode of Mac Stories Unwind is brought to you by Collide. Collide sends employees important, timely, and relevant security recommendations for their Linux, Mac, and Windows devices right inside Slack. Collide is perfect for organizations that care deeply about compliance and security, but don't want to get there by locking down devices to the point where they become unusable. Instead of frustrating your employees, Collide educates them about security and device management while directing them to fix important problems. Visit collide.com/MSU to sign up today. That's KOLIDE.com/MSU. Enter your email when prompted to receive your free Collide gift bundle after trial activation. At Collide, they know that end users are IT admins' most significant untapped resource and key to solving the most challenging to fix security issues, including instructing developers to set passphrases on unencrypted SSH keys, finding plain text two-factor backup codes and teaching end users how to store them securely, convincing employees to uninstall evil browser extensions that may sell their browser history, and a whole lot more. Those are just some of the many use cases not solved by locking down devices. You can try Collide with all of its features on an unlimited number of devices for free for 14 days with no credit card required. Try it out today at collide.com/MSU. That's KOLIDE.com/MSU. Our thanks to Collide for their support of the show. My pick, Federico, is Loot, which is a
love this show. Yes.
new Apple TV Plus show. I love it too. And there are 3 episodes out. I guess as we put this out, there might be a 4th one out.
Yes, it just came out.
Okay, yeah. And I'll probably watch this tonight. But this is a fantastic fish out of water show. I mean, I'm not surprised that you and I like it because I think it's done by former Parks and Rec people. The story is of a woman played by Maya Rudolph named Molly Novak. And Molly Novak is the wife of a billionaire, a tech billionaire. And this is a very...
Played by Adam Scott.
Yes, played by Adam Scott, who's, just off of Severance, is playing this role in another Apple TV Plus show. And she finds out at her birthday party that he's having an affair. And they divorce. And that's the setup in the first several minutes of this show to the rest of the story. Now, because they didn't have any kind of prenuptial agreement, I guess, she gets in the settlement $87 billion. And this house that is bananas. It's like, I think someone in our Club Mac Stories Discord said that this is an actual house, and there are videos on YouTube.
Whoa, really?
Talking about it. Yeah, I don't know if you had seen this, but I saved a link to the video, and I'll put it in the show notes. But apparently this is a $500 million house, like one of the most expensive houses in the entire world. And I think it was at least in part filmed there. But so Molly Novak is this incredibly rich woman who finds herself newly divorced and is looking for direction in her life. And the first thing she does is she flies around the world partying. She's in Brazil, she's in Europe, she's in all these different places, right? But it's not really doing it for her. It's, she's still got this emptiness inside. And one day she realizes that she has a foundation that she didn't even really know about. But someone at her foundation calls her because she's out, partying at all these glamorous places around the world, embarrassing the foundation that's doing work to try to help people in California primarily. And it's, they're opening homeless shelters for women and doing other kinds of things with doing all sorts of charity work. And she goes in, she meets with this very stern, very, I guess, uptight woman who runs the foundation, and in the process meets a lot of the other people in the office. And she decides, you know what? I want to re-engage with my foundation. This is going to be her way to kind of reconnect with the world, understand what's going on outside of her sphere of ultra-rich people, and give her something to do. And so she starts showing up at the foundation, and it very quickly becomes a workplace comedy, essentially, because there's a whole raft of characters of people who work there. And there are some incredibly funny scenes here. I mean, there's the opening of the women's shelter where she shows up. She gives
gift bags.
Yeah, she gives out these gift bags, right? These gift bags of kind of useless luxury products and tchotchkes that would go over great at a cocktail party for someone who's a millionaire, but don't really resonate with people who don't have a home. And so that ends up, of course, on the news. And then the third episode, I don't want to spoil too much of the plot here, but she has decided that she wants to shine the spotlight on the charity. So she is going to do a bunch of interviews and was going to do interviews with, 60 Minutes and all these really CNN, all these serious news outlets, but decides in the end to cancel them all and instead do an appearance on The Hot Ones, which is a YouTube channel, which I personally kind of love. And she goes on there, wants to talk about her charity, but she obviously can't handle even the mildest hot sauces and very quickly is melting down, drinking an inordinate amount of beer to try to get the heat out of her mouth. And at one point, even mixing beer with milk, which is the most disgusting thing I can imagine. Getting very drunk and finishing the episode with just a string of expletives, right? And it is just such a great scene. I mean, Maya Rudolph is fantastic in that scene. And, I think that these first couple of episodes are a little slow in the sense that there's not a lot of character development of these. I think with, these big ensemble casts, it's a little hard early on because you've got, 4, 5, 6 different people in this foundation who are working there, and you don't get a very good sense for their personalities or characters right away, except for maybe 1 or 2. But by the end of the 3rd episode, I got the feeling that that's coming with time. One character at a time. I think there'll be spotlights on various characters throughout the season. And Maya Rudolph really does a great job of just carrying this story. And I think it's a lot of fun. It's very funny. It's very much reminds me of what you said the other episode on Unwind about having something that's just kind of fun and you can turn your brain off and enjoy, and it's short. And this really fits the bill perfectly for that.
Yeah, I love this show so much, and also one of my favorite characters from the charity, played by Ron Funches, which I remembered from Undateable, which was another comedy from a few years ago. Also, Ron Funches was in Blackish, I think.
Right.
Yeah,
Really good.
You really I love his acting style and voice. Like, he's got an excellent voice. So I personally love Ron Funches, and I love Maya Rudolph. Obviously, she was great in she had a secondary role in The Good Place a few years back. So yeah, I'm loving this because I'm getting Parks and Rec vibes from all of this, it's the classic workplace comedy that I love, and Sylvia loves it as well. And that dissonance between Molly's billionaire world and the real life problems that the charity deals with leads to some just absurd situations like what you just mentioned with the women's shelter and the interview. This show is great, and I'm so glad to see this type of show on Apple TV Plus. I should also say, I am so happy to see this kind of easy family comedy on Apple TV Plus because, we have enough dramas and thrillers and, documentaries on Apple sci-fi stuff on Apple TV Plus. It's good to see a show like this.
It really is. And I think the other thing I would mention about this is I like Maya Rudolph's assistant a lot too. She's got
my God, yes.
He's terrific. They've got she's also has this enormous staff running her household. And one of the best moments I think was when she decided she's going off to work. She's going to go to the foundation. She's going to be gone for 8 hours. And the staff is like, what are we going to do all day? And so they have a giant pool party, which I thought was perfect.
Yeah. With the song with Turn Down for What, I think was the song in that scene, which was also perfect. Like a bunch of slow-mo shots of all the staff getting drunk and jumping and playing in the pool. Yeah, that was great.
It was really good. All right, Federico. Well, I think that'll do it for this week. We'll be back next week with another episode of Mac Stories Unwind. I want to thank our sponsor, which is Collide. You can find me and Federico over at macstories.net. Federico is at Fetici on Twitter and Instagram. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees. JOHNVOORHWS. Talk to you next Friday, Federico.
Ciao, John.